which is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Burdell Williams,
Present.
Mr. Cohen,
Present.
Mr. Epps,
Present.
Mr. Fishbein. Thank you. Ms. Haywood,
Present.
Ms. Henry, Ms. Lohman,
Present.
Ms. Mulhern,
Present.
and Mr. Schultz.
Whoops. Present.
Thank you. That concludes the roll call.
Providing a report. Oh, that's what it is. Sorry.
Hi, so from our September meeting, which was held on, sorry, the 21st, I'm pretty sure. We went over most of the planning for homecoming. So from our dance and school spirit committee, they planned the homecoming game and then as well as organized the homecoming court and the dance and then the spirit week that led up to the game and the dance. They also had shout outs at the pep rally and organized the court nominations that were announced then, and then a tailgate that was helped out by the Alumni Association, where they invited some local food trucks to come right before the game. And so some students gathered out and hung out with their friends before the game. And then the homecoming game went pretty well. From our environmental and sustainability committee, they just started meeting with the strategic planning committee, and they will report more at our October meeting because they just started, as well as they've been working on possibly offering more language courses at our high school, but it would be held online. We haven't gone really in depth about that, but it's a possibility that they've brought up. From our charity committee, they worked on organizing our blood drive, which will take place in December, and donations for our Thanksgiving baskets will start soon, I'm pretty sure. And then our civics group met with the youth chair of Cheltenham Democratic Committee, and will bring their information from what they took from that at our next meeting, which is next week. And then they've been working with our speaker to bring back like representatives from the school. So we usually have homeroom reps, but now that homeroom is no longer a thing, we're trying to work that out and still get representatives throughout the school. From our treasurer, we totaled about $7,000 from our homecoming sales from both t-shirts and tickets. And she will go over how much we've actually made after doing the calculations. And from the student council as a whole, we've really liked community lunch schedule that's been implemented so far. And we hope to see like more good things come out of it. The only thing is having club meetings during that time. And we're going to discuss it more at our next meeting to see how it's pan out, because it's been only a couple weeks since then. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. Dr. Scriven will provide the superintendent's report.
Good evening. I have to be careful with how my voice booms, not to scare anyone. So I'm charged this evening with the superintendent's report. I want to start out because we have a couple administrators who are in the audience with us this evening. And we want to recognize our principals, our assistant principals, our administrative team, because October is the month where they are nationally recognized. So to Mr. DeAndrea and Mr. Taylor and Mr. Metcalf, our hats tip to all of you, but to you specifically also who are here tonight for all of the great work that you do. for the sake of our students. Look at all the lovely faces up on the screen, just so everyone can take in. Great administrators make great schools. Next on the report, it's also the month of October where we celebrate our learning disability and also dyslexia. I think that is something that we want to give special attention to as we try to heighten awareness. We've been working with our SEEK organization, who has sent out important resources for us, which we are sharing with the community. But we want to highlight that 1 out of 5 students are dealing with some type of disability. And here, as we pride ourselves on being a very diverse school system with the ability to meet the needs of all, this is definitely one of our student groups that we want to celebrate and continue to do our best to give them the quality education that they're so deserving of. And yet again, October is also our Hispanic Heritage Month. Beginning in 1968, Hispanic Heritage Month began. It's something that is being recognized at all of our schools. This is just a highlight from the high school, where you have some of the bios from some of our current high school students. I know in speaking with Principal Metcalf earlier at Cedarbrook, they're doing some specific celebrations for their Hispanic population. And this is something that is actually happening throughout the district. So as we embrace our diversity and we're culturally responsive, I'm glad that this is something that I personally wanted to celebrate, as many of our schools are celebrating the richness in which our district is made of. This is a huge announcement. Let me make sure it's teed up. It is. Fluxspace. So when we look at education of today and what the characteristics that we're looking for, we're going through a strategic plan where one of the targets is a portrait of a graduate. I really want to emphasize that it's not just about grades any longer, but it's about the habits of mind and our students' ability to coexist beyond high school in terms of being creative thinkers, in terms of being innovative, in terms of being adaptive, in terms of having a great imagination. The traditional sit and get that we are so accustomed of, and I know that's what I grew up to, 7 rows that may have been 10 deep and pretty much a sit and get type of delivery of instruction. It is not the norm anymore. And we're extremely fortunate to be the recipients of a grant that's also being shared with Norristown School District, where we're being awarded $650,000. I know it may not seem like a lot, but it's going to afford us to look at how we go about setting up classrooms and spaces from a different lens in terms of encouraging student discourse and opportunities for students and also faculty and staff to converse in a way that is probably not the norm in many cases. So there's a series of steps that will be taking place as we are really gearing up to implement this initiative. But I just wanted to put it out there because it's something that is going to be public knowledge. So definitely want the community to be aware. We're going to probably look at a specific project at each school, but this is going to actually happen organically. And it's something I'm looking forward to, where as we're piloting this experience, hopefully it's something that can be duplicated based on the data that we collect from implementation and the level of effectiveness. Next slide. We just heard this alluded to. I believe that was Faith, our student representative, where she referenced the community lunch, which is happening at the high school right now. I know Principal DeAndrea is here in support. There was a survey which was taken where family members, parents, guardians, students, faculty, and staff had an opportunity to partake. I believe there were approximately 1,100 individuals that participated in this survey. And you can see that the results are resounding in terms of 97% being in favor of continuing and 3% wanting to return back to the 3 lunch model, which was the previous model. There have been no final determinations at this point, but at least we have a baseline grounded in data where there will be more deliberation as Principal DeAndrea meets with different stakeholders in terms of unpacking the next steps and what this would look like moving forward. Our next slide, we want to kind of celebrate one of our own, which is our assistant business manager, Lou Kim. She was just recently recognized for an advocacy award, and I think it's appropriate that she's smiling under her hand at the table behind us. But this was serious. I have sitting to my left our director for business finance, and as many of you know, that position was vacant for an extended period of time, probably approximately 18 months. And Ms. Kim really stepped in to make sure that we did not miss a beat as a school district. And this was part of that recognition of the work which she did. So congratulations to you, well deserved. Next slide, please. I'm always very intentional about making sure that we always include something from an instructional standpoint. I do want to state that all of these individuals that are mentioned as our national merit scholarship recipients will be recognized at November's board meeting. So I'm not going to try to call out all of their names at this time, but I do have to call out our senior Kai Bosniak. And if I said it wrong, please pull me up the next time I'm at the high school and correct me. But this young man, I mean, just think, he was in the top 1%. There's approximately 4.5 million individuals that take the PSAT, and there's only 7,500 that are actually awarded the national merit or become semi-finalists, and he was one of those individuals. Again, but as you go down and you can read at your own discretion, just the individuals that are highlighted. We have a couple that were in the top 3 to 4% and a couple that were in the top 10%, all from the high school. And I just think that that is something definitely worth celebrating, as that's another core tenet when we look at student outcomes that we're so proud of. And then we always try to just highlight some of the great cultural things that are happening. This is an activity that's happening at Cheltenham and Myers Elementary, where there's theater projects that they're preparing for. They're going to have a showcase. This is actually going to be held on October 22nd at Fairmount Park Smith's Playhouse. And this competition is going to include about 600 submissions. So you can read more on our website, but it's definitely something that I wanted to elevate, just the richness again of what's happening. And then our project-based learning for 12 are analyzing and evaluating what a portrait is. And that's what this next slide captures. They had an individual come in from New York and really unpack the true definition of portraits. And I just think real life opportunities that are authentic are crucial. And this is just an example of some of the guests that we have that come in. It's not just about what teachers bring, but they also look at resources that can enhance the curriculum. And this is an awesome example of that. This is kind of close to home. This is our state representative, Nelson, who had a Constitution Day at EP, where he really worked with the students in developing different constitutions, which they actually signed off on. The kids were definitely actively involved, and it was an awesome experience. So those are some of our potentially our future politicians that he's pouring into at an early age. And then we had a September chill at Myers, and I just love the creativity because they're actually on the hard top with their beach towels. And this is one of the PBIS initiatives where kids, based on points and their outstanding behavior, are afforded opportunities to do things a little differently. And this is a great example of that, where they had their own teacher, DJ, snacks, etc. So awesome. And then at Wyncote Elementary, they were learning about Johnny Appleseed, and that just makes me laugh because I still remember Johnny Appleseed as a kid. But you can see the smiling faces, and they were engaged as well. So these are just highlights and celebrations as we continue to try to provide that rich educational experience for our students across the board. And that's the end of my report. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm going to pass it back to Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven, for that report. Mr. Diazio, our solicitor, will provide the solicitor's report for sunshine announcements.
Yes, thank you. The board has met one time in executive session since last month's public meeting. The executive session was on October 6th, 2022. And the topic of discussion was the Act 93 compensation agreement with the CASA group. That agreement's on the agenda for final board approval this evening. Thank you.
We will move to public comments on agenda items only. There are several ways to, if you have comments, one is anyone in the room can come up and speak. If you do have a comment or question, please announce your name and where you reside in the township. Online, folks can use Zoom by raising their hand. They will be unmuted. And also by email, by emailing CSD board meeting comments@cheltenham.org. So we'll give time in case there are any comments. Okay, we will move on. There are no attendees in the Zoom room that have comments or have raised their hand, and no one in the room. We will move to the approval of minutes from the September 13th legislative meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Cohen. Second, Mr. Epps.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. I'm an aye, the motion carries. We will now have our committee reports. Mr. Schultz, you'll provide the financial affairs report?
Yes.
The Finance Committee had a meeting scheduled for October 4th. That meeting was canceled due to observance of Yom Kippur. The next Finance Committee meeting will be held on November 1st after the Facilities Committee meeting, which is a hybrid and in the on Zoom as well as in the Administration Building. The Facilities Committee meeting is at 7, so the Finance Committee meeting will likely be around 7:45. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Ms. Mulhern will provide the Educational Affairs report.
Thank you. The Educational Affairs Committee had its first meeting of the 2022-23 school year on Tuesday, September 20th. Just like this evening's meeting and our other committee meetings, the meeting was held in a hybrid format, so you can attend in person or via Zoom. We had 2 items on our agenda. We first heard from Dr. Smith, who presented the Educational Affairs meeting agenda for all of the meetings agendas for the 2022-23 school year. We have not had all of the agendas in the year in advance like this previously, so this is an exciting change. The agendas are available within the presentation slides on the website, and this will help the community determine what meetings are of particular interest to them. So they can know even months out, hey, I really want to go hear the update on PBL that I think is in March. And so then they can go to that, be sure that that's on their calendar. So this is super exciting. As anything, it's subject to change. We may have to tweak things or add a particular subject, but we really want to thank Dr. Smith and the administration for helping get us to this place, because I know it took a lot of work to put this all together. So thank you. Secondly, we had a presentation from Mr. Pimental, who is our supervisor of gifted education and professional learning. This is a proposal for early dismissal every other Wednesday to support the district's professional learning goals and objectives. So professional development for our staff. This has not been finalized at this time. The calendar committee will reconvene to discuss the proposal, and they will share their recommendations with the community. And in addition, the school district community will be surveyed to gather information about the impact this change might have. The next Educational Affairs meeting is Tuesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. The meeting will be available in person and via Zoom, as I said. And again, please feel free to check the video of the recording of the meeting and find those slides so you can see all of those agenda items for the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mulhern. Mr. Burdell Williams will provide a report from Eastern Center of Arts and Technology.
Yep, good evening. The Eastern Center for Arts and Technology September meeting was held in a virtual format via Zoom. There was first recognition of the September Student of the Month, Jasmine Lakari, who is a senior at Abington Senior High. She is in the Eastern's Design, Photography, and Illustration program. I'm just going to share that, like, just a small excerpt, what was shared with from one of her teachers. She's a strong leader who's always looking for new challenges, excels in the program, and exhibits strong communication skills, kindness, and compassion toward her peers. The JOC then discussed a very important topic that I did share just a little bit brief information with the board last week, that Eastern had a presentation from Wendy Leiden, who is a cosmetology instructor. However, what she was sharing at the September meeting is information regarding Eastern's equity action plan for the school year. During that equity action plan, she detailed the faculty and staff training provided over the last year, the climate and culture survey that both students and staff participated in, and the formation and mission of Eastern's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. Additionally, she presented, the action steps for the equity action plan, including identifying and understanding the school demographics, analyzing student data related to achievement and experience for disproportionality among demographic groups, and developing an equity definition. The immediate goals are to revise the transgender procedure at Eastern, provide professional development for staff on supporting transgender or gender expansive students, and revisions to the student handbook, allowing students to reach out to inform Eastern of their gender identity challenges. This was a very lengthy presentation, and there's a significant amount of energy at Eastern regarding their efforts toward equity and action. And I will continue to update the board and community on the next steps that Eastern is taking. I'll just share that having the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology really along their journey of equity really speaks to a lot of the community relations that I think Eastern stands for, that sometimes go maybe not noticed as much as normal, because at Eastern, it's a culmination of 9 of our school districts. And so what happens at Eastern can be cascaded into those districts. And that information, although Cheltenham on our own mission for equity, not every one of the sending districts is on the same, let me just say, like, timeline that we're on, right? So it's very important to see that Eastern is taking this leadership role. And I'm really looking forward to continuing to ask questions and collaborate with colleagues from other districts on this very important work. Another one of the important aspects that I did want to share is that at Eastern is applying for a mental health and school security grant. The JOC approved a grant that was offered through the Office of Research, Evaluation, and Strategic Policy Development of the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, better known as PCCD. And Eastern plans to use the funds to address some physical security, but most importantly, school mental health access to resources. Those were the large updates. There is one fundraiser that I will share. So Eastern's Foundation is holding Designer Bag Bingo on October 19th at Upper Moreland High School. Information about that event is available online. All of the proceeds from any of the Eastern Foundation's fundraisers benefit the Skills USA and the Eastern Foundation, which helps support students on their journey. And that concludes my report. The next meeting of the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology is tomorrow at 8 p.m. This meeting will be held via Zoom, and the link for that meeting can be found on Eastern's website at eastech.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Ms. Lohman will provide the MCIU report.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. The Montgomery County Intermediate Unit Board met in person and also over Zoom on Wednesday, September 28th, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. Every MCIU board meeting starts off with a presentation from one of the MCIU's offices. That night, it was a presentation by Jack Hurd, who is the IU's Director of Human Resources. He provided an overview and update on the work of the Office of Human Resources at the IU, and he reviewed the HR services provided internally at the IU, which ranges from handling all the recruitment and hiring efforts to resignation and retirement issues, and externally to the 22 school districts in Montgomery County that the IU supports. Some of the ways they support districts with their HR needs include holding monthly meetings for Montgomery County schools to collaborate on current topics and legal trends in the human resources field. The IU will also conduct special projects for districts, including desk audits, compensation structure reviews, and personnel file audits. Mr. Hurd also discussed the major hiring challenges that the MCIU has been facing as a result of the Great Resignation. And he detailed some of the efforts the IU has been making to hire new employees, as well as retain existing staff and support staff mental health needs. The IU is definitely in hiring mode. So if you know anyone who's interested, please go to mciu.org and check out their website and look at the positions that are available. They're in particular need of supports in the special education classrooms that they serve, on the aid for aides, and they also need people in their transportation department. So they are very anxious to fill certain positions at the IU. The IU's executive director, Dr. Regina Speaker, then discussed a free school safety conference that's occurring in the western, central, and eastern parts of the state. this fall. The Pennsylvania Governor's Office of Homeland Security, in partnership with 3 IUs, including the MCIU, organize these conferences, which are focusing on averting targeted violence in schools through mental health supports and building a culture of belonging. The conference that will be held in the eastern part of the state is going to be on Wednesday, November 16th from 8 to 4 p.m. at Normandy Farm Hotel and Conference Center in Bluebell. This is a free conference, and it is intended for school resource officers, school administrators and staff, mental and social health experts, law enforcement, and first responders. The IU has been working very hard with their fellow IUs around the state to make this a very interesting and worthwhile conference for folks to attend. And it's actually one of the speakers is a staff member who was at the Parkland High School during the shooting, and kind of talking about what his experiences were and what he's learned from that experience. So it's got a lot of very interesting speakers as part of it. The MCIU board then received reports from the IU's 10 offices and approved a number of service agreements with school districts for professional development services and consultation and technical support, waiver agreements with families for early intervention speech services, and general contracted consultant agreements with a number of districts, including one with Cheltenham for a board certified behavior analyst for the 2022-2023 school year at $775 per day. A BCBA is someone who works primarily with children with autism on behavior issues. So the next MCIU board meeting will be held on Wednesday, November 16th, 2022 at 6:45 p.m. Again, in a hybrid format, both in person at the MCIU's Norristown office and over Zoom. This ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Lohman. Mr. Burdell Williams, you'll be providing the facilities report.
Similar to the Finance Committee, the Facilities Committee did not meet in the month of October. After numerous efforts to try to reschedule and find a better time, we did decide to hold off. So the next meeting of the Facilities Committee will be on Tuesday, November 1st, 7 p.m. following the agenda build and ahead of the Finance Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burdell Williams. Mr. Cohen will provide a liaison group report.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Henry. The liaison group met on September 19th, 2022, and the liaison group is a group of Cheltenham Township officials and also school board members that talk about areas of common interest. The first item on the agenda was an introduction of Joshua Swigart as the new Director of Business Services for the school district, and he was well welcome there. There was then a discussion about a new pedestrian trail that is being installed by the township by Gimbal Little League Field, which is near Cedar Road and Harrison Avenue in Elkins Park, which will continue to New Second Street and Tucson Creek Parkway. And the focus of that discussion was about pedestrian safety, where the trail would let out, that section of the trail would let out near New Second Street and Tucson Creek Parkway, which is a very heavily trafficked area, traveled area, and also which is right near the Elkins Park School. There was then discussion about a specific property that had a tax exempt status and an apparent conflict for the zoning and use of that property. There were updates on the following items about buses that Dr. Scriven provided, and also Dr. Scriven provided an update on crossing guards. It was noted that there were no issues of note about school safety zones, and Dr. Scriven provided an update and brief conversation about facilities for the school district. There was a brief conversation about climate update in the school district, and Dr. Scriven noted that disciplinary issues had declined and that work is underway on a strategic plan to develop action plans for 7 targeted areas with a goal to have the plan done by December this year. There was a question from a commissioner of the township about AP class composition, and Dr. Scriven addressed that question, including removing barriers and gatekeepers for entrance into those classes. There was a question about teacher shortages, and Dr. Scriven noted that the school district has few shortages. The next meeting is scheduled via Zoom on October 17th, 2022 at 8 a.m. That completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Ms. Haywood will provide a policy update.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. Similar to facilities and financial affairs, the policy committee meeting did not meet in September. Our next meeting of the policy committee is on Tuesday, October the 25th at 7 p.m. in room 102 of the administration building. That's also going to be a hybrid meeting. It's open to the public, so please feel free to stop by. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haywood. Mr. Epps will provide a legislative update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm Zachary Epps and represent the board at the Montgomery County Legislative Committee. And so it seemed to be the theme, but for a pleasant one, there was a baby born. And so we didn't meet in September, but I certainly have a couple of updates that are pertinent for our community. And to start off, thank you, Dr. Scriven, for kicking off the celebration tonight for Hispanic Heritage Month. Those may be familiar with Dolores Huerta, who was one of the co-founders of the National Farm Workers Association. I want to share some of her words. Every moment is an organizing opportunity. Every person is a potential activist. Every minute is a chance to change the world. And so on November 8th, this year, we have an election here in the Commonwealth where we'll be voting on a number of positions, including the U.S. Senate and House, our state representative and senator. All of those positions are up, including the governor for our Commonwealth and lieutenant governor. And so there's a lot of discussions right now being had about what are the priorities for our country, what are the priorities for our Commonwealth, and every person has an opportunity to share their voice in that conversation. And so I encourage everyone. I'm certainly not going to tell anybody whom to vote for. That's not appropriate for this body, but we certainly do encourage folks, especially our students who will be eligible. October 24th is the deadline to register. And so you can do that online. You can do that via mail, but certainly encourage you all to seize the moment that we have. Continuing, one of the things that in terms of priorities at the federal level, a continuing resolution was recently passed over the last week. And the continuing resolution is essentially a short-term budget. And so for the whole year since about May, the Congress and our president, our federal decision makers haven't come to agreement about a long-term budget. And so, again, we have a moment to infuse your voice. There's conversations about increasing funding for education, from pre-K all the way through college and beyond, healthcare and energy and sustainability. There's some conversations about how much is enough to fund efforts in those areas. I thought it also might be interesting to share recently at our state level, Senator Judith Schwank of Berks County, not too far away, introduced Senate Bill 506. This would allow students in K-12 up to 2 days for wellness, essentially mental health wellness days. And so that has been introduced. It's not a law. It has to go to committee, right? How a bill becomes a law. But certainly if that is of interest to anyone, students, parents, family, essentially would open up some options for folks to use those days as opposed to being penalized for self-care or care for your family. And certainly look out if you want to get involved with that. Reach out to I'm not able to post it in the chat, but you can reach out to our elected officials, State Senator Art Haywood and his office to let your voice be known on that issue. So thanks for listening. That concludes my report, and I do expect that we will convene as a legislative committee during the last week of this month. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. That concludes our committee reports. We will move to the approval of agenda items. Can I get a motion to approve? Move to approve.
Second, Charles Burdell Williams.
Before we take our vote, I want to open it up to the board for any comments.
Just a really question about one of the items. There's a approval of mentor mentees. Could someone from administration, just add some context for us in the public.
Good evening. The agenda item for our mentor mentees approval. It points to a program that we have in the Cheltenham School District, long-standing program for our new teachers. A new teacher is defined as a teacher that is new to Cheltenham School District or new to teaching. And this program gives our veteran teachers an opportunity to coach and mentor our new teachers around curriculum, instruction, assessment, and any other topics that are required by the mentees. Because this time is additional time to the workday, our mentors are compensated.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? So we will take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. I'm an aye. The motion carries. Prior to moving to public comment on non-agenda items, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Scriven.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to bring attention to one of our appointments of our new administrators who's here with us this evening. I would be remiss if I did not take the point of privilege to recognize Mr. Kevin Smith. Mr. Smith, please stand so we can acknowledge and congratulate you. You can come up to the podium, sir. Come on up to the podium. We're putting you on the spot, but you know to always be prepared for that. I do want to simply add that he's joined by his principal, Mr. Metcalf. He will be joining the ranks of Cedar Brook Middle School. Mr. Smith is not a stranger to Cheltenham. He did serve in a capacity prior to his current assignment, soon to be over. I think he will be joining us October 24th, if I'm correct. But we're just excited. So wanted to give you an opportunity just to address the board and the public at this time, sir.
Well, first, I just want to say I'm excited to be back. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's just a great community to be a part of. And I'm looking forward to October 24th to, again, just continue the great work that I was doing previously.
Welcome. Or I should say, welcome home. Next, we will move to public comments on non-agenda items. For those that are in the Zoom room, you can use the raise hand tool, and then you will be unmuted and granted speaking privileges. For those who are streaming or watching the broadcast, can submit questions via email at csdboardmeetingcomments@cheltenham.org. And if there's any in person, you're welcome to approach the podium. Please all provide your name and where you reside in the community.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Tara Knox. I live in Wyncote. I think you all remember the last meeting I was talking about the football team. So I'm just here again with the same concerns. I was looking forward to seeing what the facility update would be, but I do know that meeting is on November the 1st. So I will wait to see what the outcome of that is before I make another comment or request, but that was the main reason for me being here today. So just want to say hi and thank you all. And our program book did come out for the football team, so I did bring a copy for you all to see. And thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. All right, there are no hands or emails. Response to I'm sorry, Mr. Metcalf.
Good evening. Greg Metcalf, principal at Cedar Brook and Wyncote Township resident. So I just wanted to, again, give a warm welcome to Kevin Smith coming back to us. He and I were actually hired at the same time at Cheltenham High School when I came back. And, I'm looking forward to working with him again. And, I think our scholars our staff members are looking forward as well. So just want to thank him personally, publicly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Emmanuel Carrera, music teacher at Cedar Brook Middle School and resident of Cheltenham Township. And I am here to as well to support Kevin Smith, my former and now very excited to have him as my new colleague and administrator at Cedar Brook Middle School. We work together in the Norristown Area School District. And I can't tell you the incredible work he did there, and I can't begin to express how much I look forward to the incredible work that he's going to do there at Cedar Brook Middle School. And so I'm very excited for him, and I'm just here to express to you guys just how thankful I am and how supportive I am of this hire you have with Mr. Smith. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hayward?
Thank you, Ms. Henry. I know that we've gone beyond the consent agenda, but I just had one comment. I know yesterday we had Professional Development Day and that was on the calendar as such. But I hope as we go forward, maybe next year, that we also indicated that it's Indigenous Peoples' Day. So that we recognize that formally on our calendar as opposed to just being silent about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayward. There were all public questions have either been addressed or were answered in the meeting, the last legislative meeting, so there's nothing to report on. Future meetings are as listed on the agenda. And I would like to make a motion for the meeting to be adjourned.
So move, Charles Bedell Williams.
Second, Jennifer Loman.
I thought y'all wanted to stay. I was looking around. I got
Gonna
quiet.
wait.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm aye. The motion carries. The meeting is adjourned.